Thank you, Thomas. I'm excited to be here, and we do a lot of conferences, a lot of discussions with truckers, the trucking industry, the truck builders, and so forth. And this being a little different with facility focus, I'm excited to share some thoughts. I'm looking forward to your questions. So I've got like 20 slides. I'm going to go fairly quickly through them because I do want to get to Q&A and have a dialogue, but. We've done a lot of work around decarbonizing trucks, both in fleet and freight, but focused on the trucks themselves, whether that's burning less diesel and heavy tractor trailers to, medium duty trucks, step vans, and now looking at what really the poll nicely asked around, electrification, efficiency technologies, looking at, I saw the natural gas comment come in, so I'll chat about that quickly and can take some questions on that as well. So let's just dive right in. We just quickly on us, we're unbiased, 13 years, a nonprofit. Thomas mentioned the RMI relationship. But everything we do is publicly available. There's no extra data behind a fence or anything. So NACFE.org, runonless.com are the two sites. And people say that they're fun to be on. We have videos and infographics for the picture people and the folks that like in that. And then we have some data, and we've got deep research documents as well. Maybe not quite DOE level, but 100, 150, 200 page documents when some of the topics warrant it. So have a look there. No membership. Some places we ask for an email address to provide the details, but I think it'll be helpful to you if you're looking at this space. So I always like to start with this. I mean, if you just sort of read the press and kind of hear what's going on out there, you would think that all these technologies are ready to go around decarbonizing goods and whether that's moving them around a yard or across the country. And so as we look at that, electric vehicles get a lot of press. Hydrogen recently has gotten a lot of discussion around helping with some of the pitfalls of electrification, that being primarily range and weight. But hydrogen comes with a lot of other challenges that we've kind of known about since we put, Apollo on the moon with hydrogen 50 years ago. The joke often is that, hydrogen's the fuel, 5 years from now, and it's been that way for 50 years. But also, let's not forget diesel engines, natural gas engines, and some even opportunities to burn hydrogen in an engine. So engines aren't going away anytime real quickly. But I would say in some sectors and some segments, as I'll show, its days are numbered. And for some of you, hint, spoiler alert, terminal tractors, yard dogs. I mean, those are, we believe, we studied them in some depth, really ready for electrification now. Why am I here? What have we done? I mean, we spent like 3 or 4 years, a few years ago, really digging into electrification and published a number of really good reports. Gave us the base to kind of talk to this area. And so NACFE, we're like the pragmatic voice here. So we work with truckers, the fleets themselves, manufacturers of the vehicles and components and so forth. Governments and non-government organizations, other nonprofits, universities, all kinds of folks to give us, and we pull all that in to our work and then push out these studies and this work to help the industry move forward. Another thing that we've done over the years is something called Run on Less, and this is a lot of fun. We do it every 2 years. We've kind of got into a rhythm of doing it in the odd years, and so we focused on long haul trucks. The first run, 2019, we looked at regional, where we had 1 natural gas truck and 9 diesels. And then last year, we focused solely on battery electric, where we went down into, that DHL van back there is all electric, one of something like 25 at that location. We went in and did a lot of work with electric trucks, and I'll get into that here as I go through these. With respect to those runs, the first one taught us how to get 10 mile per gallon in long haul disparate route trucking. And, when we did that in 2017, that was a shocking number. Today, people talk about 10 mile per gallon, but the national average is still at about 6.25. New trucks, maybe 7.5 or 8. All that, of course, depends on load and weight and and payload and where you're operating, how many starts. We've been helping the industry think about that and move forward with the technologies around long haul, regional haul. We've gotten real curious, and I put this slide in this deck in particularly about what's going on around hub and spoke, shorter runs. In 2019, we published a report on what we called regional haul, and we looked at the opportunities we saw for regional haul trucking, and that was when electric trucks were starting to emerge. But we all have always had this driver challenge, and so we felt like, or one of the conclusions we came out of this is this movement to more hub and spoke, which is happening because of a lot of trends and a lot of technologies, has a real benefit for trucking and getting drivers home more often, and being able to have return to base operations for things like natural gas and electrification and even hydrogen. So that led us then to do Run on Less Regional there in 2019, like I mentioned before. And we with all these runs, we do videos and we also do some data. So off to the right is a screenshot of, let's see, day 10 of 18 days we did back in 19 with these carriers. We did one truck, one driver at each of those carriers there in blue. And this truck was a JB Hunt truck, actually delivering mattresses out of a mattress plant there along, I think it's I-45, if I remember right. And then over to the Austin area on this particular day, taking mattresses and dropping it at a bunch of different stores. So what we try to do with the run is blend data with videos to help the industry move forward, sort of recognizing some of the best out there doing it. And with that Run on Less Regional, we were able to add to our research and our thinking around how trucks are being used a little bit differently. I mean, day cab tractors, the split of day cabs versus sleepers in production makers that make those trucks today, it moves a little bit between 40 and 45% of the tractors built are day cabs. And when I say that number, some people are shocked. And actually, I've had people tell me that there's no way that's the case, that, trucking is still over the road, long haul sleeper trucks. Drivers sleep in the truck stop every night. But what we're finding is more and more of this regionalized base. And I'd be curious even if you guys agree with that or not. But that's been on our mind a lot as we look then at electrification. So here's the participants that we had last summer, 2021, in Run on Less Electric. And so these are 13 fleets operating 13 different trucks across the US and Canada. So yes, there are electric trucks really hauling freight with real drivers outside of California. Maybe some of you guys have some, but we talked about terminal tractors already. We had 3 terminal tractors in the run, et cetera. But the heavy tractors were all in California. And that's basically because, they have the incentives. They are ahead of a lot of this with respect to that. And of course, heavy tractors are really challenging as well. A little plug on the run itself. I mean, we went and visited all of them. We did 91 interviews at those 13 sites. Proud of how we pulled that off during the pandemic. But what we produced out of that was 13 profile videos or case studies of how these trucks are run. The drivers are in them. The maintenance people were talking about them. Truck builders were talking about them. So some pretty good insights. Then we did stories from the road during September. So we tracked these trucks for 18 days. And we kept hearing like interesting things like, drivers love these electric trucks, or what about maintenance and uptime? What's it like being an early adopter? So we put together these sort of quick videos every day that we published in September. All this is still available on runonless.com. And then we got to the data. So with electric vehicles, and I'm excited to see the poll answer of so many of you looking at electric trucks. What we did from a metric standpoint with these 13 participants, the 13 fleets are in red there. So we got Day and Ross here. The blue bar across the top middle, those are the days of the run. So we happened to do a screenshot here of day 9. It was 61 degrees in Montreal that day, but day 9 with the Day and Ross truck. And we showed over that day, it was September 10th, 2021, I guess, the state of charge going down over time, the deliveries made, kind of what was going on with the truck. I actually I hate and like showing this one. Off to the right there, you can see where state of charge dropped to 0 a couple times during the day. We know that didn't happen. That's part of the I'll call it immaturity or the nascent nature of these trucks and chargers. And and data collection being fairly new. But we brought all that data into this dashboard, and there's a lot to be learned here. So 18 days, 13 fleets, a lot of fun data. If you want to geek out someday, you can go in and look at all of this data there online. So let me get into a couple of things we found. We had 3 vans and step vans. These are smaller trucks, and the drivers loved them. These trucks did a great job performing. They tell us that the reliability and uptime of these trucks are extraordinary. The drivers like driving them. In the cities and so forth. Some challenges on where you're going to charge them. Many return to the depot, but some go home with the drivers. So if they're sitting all night, a slow DC or a slow charger can do the work. And that's kind of interesting there. So we concluded that this is a real good application. You move up a little bit into medium duty box trucks, and these were the 3 that provided us data. The Peterbilt Frito-Lay Cummins truck and the Dan Ross Lion truck, basically full production now. You can get those trucks. Can't get them tomorrow or next month, but they've moved forward generation trucks. The Roush truck was more of a prototype. It was doing real work at the time, and then terminal tractors. And so, here I was a little worried about these terminal tractors. A lot of you guys know this. A lot of these operate double shifts. They're active a lot of the time. They need to do the work, but their loads are low. I mean, they're just moving trailers around, and all 3 of these particular ones put the charger right near the driver brake. And for that NFI terminal tractor in Southern California that the Lady Jasmine was driving, essentially every moment that truck wasn't moving a trailer or out doing work, it was charging. And it moved from like 40% to 80% state of charge, like constantly, which I found really interesting. And so it could do the job in charging in that nature. And so very interesting and exciting. These trucks, the diesel versions of these with the new emissions rules are difficult on maintenance and uptime. So we really see this as a great place for. And when you get into the big boys, the heavy tractors, this is a city tractor in Beveridge. That tractor did everything the diesel could do and is performing extremely well for Anheuser-Busch. But I'd end with these 3 tractors. These are in much more longer haul, either drayage or other sort of regional. And the Biaggi truck hauling wine around Northern California, it was the closest for this truck to do the full use of a diesel. But in the other cases, they really were not able to do it, and we know that. So as the trucks change and so forth, they'll be able. But I got to say, throughout the run, we were surprised a bit. I mean, we expected it, but the trucks are performing extremely well, high reliability, durability. The reality that these are elegantly simple trucks. Now, I don't know if I should call them simple. I mean, they got high voltage, a lot of software, some expensive plug and play components. But comparing that to where we've gotten with diesel, with emissions and other requirements, and yet more to do, these trucks really perform well. So here in 2022, we looked at all of those market segments, and we used what we learned there, plus some new research, and we put out 4 reports. And basically, we're saying that electrification is ready to go and really has a business case in terminal tractors, vans and step vans, medium duty trucks, and for short regional like the Beveridge. But there's more work to do on what we called medium and longer regional haul return to base, and we didn't even talk yet about long haul. On charging, and this is where we're going to expand the NACFE work here in 2022 and in 2023 around infrastructure, because this is becoming the biggest roadblock to electrification. And how we see this emerging is fleet depot based all the way out to, at some point, truck charging. I was had an email exchange with somebody this morning. What's a realistic time frame to charge these trucks in an extremely fast charging mode? We kind of settled on 15 minutes, but in between there and there, we see things like opportunity charging at stores and warehouses to gain some state of charge during the truck driver's hours of service day. Things like, what's commonly called shared card lock locations, or, where a private company that has the charging would allow somebody to come in and charge, and charging hubs, et cetera. A couple things at the bottom that we see emerging too is things like in motion charging, whether it's and even wireless charging, where you drive over something that could really be put. A couple other thoughts before I close out. With respect to that infrastructure, there's a whole new relationship that's required here with fleets and utilities, and maybe even a third leg of this would be the facilities that these trucks and chargers are going to need to meet. So, a person recently actually used Schrader, who runs the Joint Office of Transportation and DOE, said, we have what's might be called the most complex and important system in the history of the world, the grid, matching up with the highway infrastructure that was started in the 50s and been built on. And now we're asking both of those to actually really come together. So we want to help with that intersection, but it's just so critical and crucial to success here. So how we see this emerging is that really, we see electrification, and I would include hydrogen with respect to that, hydrogen and electrification, coming sort of out of the warehouse or out of the manufacturing plant and out to the long haul. So forklifts, terminal tractors, urban delivery, this beverage and drayage I've been talking about, a longer regional haul, hub and spoke stuff before we get to long haul. And we'll see what ends up with long haul. Another way of looking at that, and this is kind of complex, there's these sectors or waves that are going to occur here. Transit buses, school buses in the green, are already started, and yellow already started. And, as we move out, we're seeing those yard tractors, the medium duty trucks, regional haul, and the market size is on the y-axis. So, later on, and we'll see bits and pieces of it emerge here. We'll get into the long haul. We'll get into vocational Class 8. Kind of an interesting one to think about is these expediters are pretty small out there, but, they go everywhere and they go fast and they do teams and they're needed for different kinds of things. We sort of see that as maybe the last bastion of internal. A couple other things that are interesting. Here's some friends of ours at ACT Research do a forecast. This is the one on electric trucks, but this chart is Class 4 to Class 8, so it includes everything kind of I've been talking about. They see a jump in 2027 into like a quarter of these trucks will be electric. New truck production, and then getting to over 40%. Really that's where that big challenge of the long haul trucks really center and become. I mentioned earlier we do these runs every other year, and so we're looking at 2023, and we're talking last week announced that we're studying and plan to execute what we're calling Run on Less Electric Depot next year, and that will be scaling these electric trucks. So we're looking for around 8 depots that have a lot of trucks. So we're thinking about 15, 20, 50 electric trucks at a site that we would go into next summer and study and understand, put measurement equipment on the trucks, maybe even the chargers. And we're looking for depots and sponsors right now to help us with that. If anybody's interested, I'm going to conclude with, sort of this heavy tractor thing that I was talking about. This is the most difficult to decarbonize. And, right now here in 2020, we sort of have mostly diesels, a little bit of natural gas. We do believe that battery electric and fuel cell electric from clean energy, so that's solar, wind, hydro, et cetera, is the future. And we've seen enough of it to believe we can get there cost effectively moving goods and in drastically less carbon pollutants. The time between 2020 or now and in 2050 or whatever out there is going to be a time where we won't wait to electrify. And when I say 2050, and that some trucks will be electric, and get into it in the 30s and later. But we just can't wait. And there's a lot of solutions coming, whether it's natural gas, utilizing the renewable natural gas or the low carbon fuel standards in many states, to hybrids. We don't even show on here yet, burning hydrogen in an internal combustion engine as a possible decarbonization effort, where we've seen some fleets. Werner announced they're going to buy 500 of those if it makes sense over the next years with Cummins. So a lot going on here, and really a lot of challenges as we move forward. So kind of with that, I'm just going to pause. I'm actually going to, I'll keep my slides up or however you want to do it, Thomas, but look